fellow barbarians. It is I, Alan Odinson, and this is the Barbarian Lounge podcast. I want to thank you guys for joining me today. We've got a great show lined up for you. Let's get a little housekeeping out of the way first. Check out our website, thebarbarianlounge.com. Go there and check out our store. We've got a lot of stuff in there, constantly adding some stuff. We've got a few new items that are on the way. But we've got, right now, we're carrying the line of Mora knives in there, some EDC bags. We've got some really cool pocket tourniquets, the combat action tourniquets and everything like that, the cat tourniquets and the rat tourniquets. Got those in there. Go there, get one of those. You need one of those if you do not have it. Go there, pick one up. Each purchase supports the show. Also, you can check out our host site at thebarbarianlounge.podbean.com. You can go there, give a subscription, stay up to date on everything that's coming out, catch up on past episodes. Also, you can check out our members site at our Patreon site. That's patreon.com/thebarbarianlounge. You can go there, become a member. Basically what it does is ask for a donation per episode. So each episode you can donate. Most people donate $1. You can, of course, donate more if you wish to further support the show. But you can donate $1, and we upload all 4 of our regular monthly episodes, and you get those early. You get those ahead of everybody else, so you can get it while it's hot. Also, we do 4 exclusive episodes that are only available on Patreon. Had some people asking about some of our other episodes. They're like, "Oh, you said you had this episode." I'm like, "Oh, that's members only." So become a member for $8 a month. It can 4 regular episodes, 4 exclusive episodes. You can do that. Support the show for $8 a month. Helps me out. Helps me keep coming in here and doing this each and every day. Helps keep the lights on up in this motherfucker. Speaking of keeping the lights on, let's check out our sponsors also. Check out OdinsonArchery.com. Traditional bows made from non-traditional materials. There's several new packs up there. We got the family pack up there, the Blot Out the Sun Arrow pack that you can get, as well as our Silent Assassin pack. So you can go there, check all that stuff out. We've got a lot of new stuff on there. Odinson Archery. If you ever thought about getting into archery or know somebody that wants to get into archery, that's the place to go. Also, you can check out Mitacon at mitaconusa.com. You can check them out. It is the energy within, not an energy drink like you think, but if you want focus of mind, if you want to really be able to stay in the game, Mitacon is the way to go. Always got my trusty, I don't have my glass today, but I actually drinking it right out the bottle. Listen up. I don't know if you can hear that, but taking me a sip of that. Keep us going. Also, you can check us out on UCY.tv every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. You can listen to the Barbarian Lounge there and catch up on some of our past episodes. There's a live chat that goes on during the show. Go there and talk to everybody who is listening to the show, and you can talk about the content, talk about elves, we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. But usually got some pretty good conversation going on in there. So today's show, I was going, let me tell you, I'll give you a little bit of disclosure here. I was going to do a show on the election because the election just happened last night, and Donald Trump became our president, or president-elect. He's technically president. I mean, of course he's not president for another couple months, but president-elect. He will be president, barring no chicanery from the system. And he defeated the evil witch known as Hillary Clinton. And hopefully she goes down in history as she deserves to be, the biggest criminal, the biggest joke of a political candidate we ever had. See, I was going to do a show about the election. I was going to talk about fallout from it and what to expect and everything like that. But that's what everybody's doing. And if you're like most of the people out there, you're sick of hearing about the election. It's over with as it stands right now. And most people are just glad that day's over with. They don't want to talk about it anymore. And I may do like a little quick Facebook live video maybe a little bit later and talk about some of my thoughts on that. But today we're not talking about the election. We're not talking about leaders. We're not talking about who's the next leader is. Today we're talking about becoming a leader. We're talking about leaders of the past and the lessons they've left for us, and how those things can help improve the quality of our lives. They can improve the qualities of our brothers that are around us, and actually allow us to take our place, take our mantle right here in this world. Most people look up high and they look at the concept of leadership being far out of reach. But I'm telling you, on this day, my friends, you can do that. On some level, you can do it. Most people just aren't ready for that mantle. But if you're listening to this show, remember, I've always said this show is about building leaders. It's not about building followers. I'm not interested in building followers. I'm interested in building leaders. Building people up. Making them better, so when they step out each day, they're striving to become a better person. They're striving to become a better member of their family, a better member of their community, a better brother in their tribe. All of these things, these are the things that I'm focused on. I'm not focused on having you follow me. I want you standing next to me, and we're all climbing that mountain together. So today we're going to be talking about the 13 powers of the Steel Samurai. So you're probably thinking, what the hell is that? I've never heard of that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. A little bit of background here. The Steel Samurai was a gentleman, it's kind of a nickname he had. Is Yoritomo no Minamoto was his name. He was the first shogun of Japan. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole backstory. You can Wikipedia that wherever you want to do. But basically, a lot of people, they have kind of a negative view about the guy from a historical standpoint. A lot of people say that he kind of slaughtered his way to the top of the ladder. Some of the things he did were commendable, and some of the things he did were damnable. But one thing he's never been accused of is inaction. He's never been accused of inaction. Yoritomo was always the guy who was the mover and shaker. He was the guy making the plays. He was the guy setting up, even though he had everything taken away from him, and just had a lot of the clans turn against him, turn against his family, and nearly wipe him from the face of the earth. He bided his time. He made alliances. He moved things out of the way, and he was always going for it. Now, did that sometimes mean taking some heads in the process? Yeah, it did. But you know what? That same thing applies today. And no, I'm not talking about decapitating your boss. What I'm talking about is taking his head in a figurative sense, meaning you moving him out of the way to get to his position. Maybe even becoming your own boss, moving all the obstacles out of your way. This is what Yoritomo was known for, the Steel Samurai. And he had what he would term as the 13 powers. The 13 powers that he used, and they were considered powers of influence. He was very big on playing the influence game. And I think in our modern day context, let's be honest, it would be a lot easier that if we needed to move somebody out of the way, we could just walk up to them and punch them in the neck and throw them off the side of the building there, figuratively, of course. But that's not the society we live in. The society we live in is a very much, it's a passive-aggressive society. It's a society where you are constantly having to deal with people on a personal level. We live in a very litigious society, so you don't want to end up getting sued because you say, you know what, I think I like this guy's position. I'm just going to toss him in the river here. You can't do that, so at least not legally. And so you have to use these powers of influence that Yoritomo used. And yeah, he did some bad things along the way, but through these powers of influence, these are the main things that allowed him to climb that ladder of success. And just as many, if you've listened to my episode on Miyamoto Musashi, you'll see the same things. You see that all the stuff that he talked about in the Book of Five Rings still applies today, whether it be in combatives in your martial arts background or in a business standpoint. The same as the Art of War by Sun Tzu. All those things still apply today. And Yoritomo's 13 powers also apply today as well. So we're going to talk about these 13 powers. We're going to get into them a little bit and talk about how they can apply in our lives today. And some of them may seem a little odd to you, but just bear with me as I explain them. Let me take another sip of my Mitacon since it's some deep shit. Oh yeah, good stuff. See, I don't have one of those nice little cough buttons, where you can mash. But so with Yoritomo's 13 powers, they were divided up. He had what you would call the 12 cuts, which was the first 12, and then he had the 13th power, was considered the secret powers, and naturally we'll get to that one at the end. But let's talk about the 12 cuts in his very own art of war, if you will say. The first one, the very first one, was what he termed as psychic forces. This is the ability to use your psychic ability to levitate cars. No, I'm just kidding. That's not what it is. It's not what it is. You have to understand the terminology that they would use back then was very different in what we would use. When he talked about psychic forces, he was basically talking about your mental ability and your mental agility. One of the things that's I find is one of the big issues with a lot of people is this lack of a mental agility, and that's basically being having the ability to perceive things, their concentration, their decision-making abilities. A lot of people have difficulty in that, and I admittedly have had problems with that in the past myself. Not so much perception and concentration, but decision-making has always been one of the things. Because in a lot of times I would find myself, when somebody would ask me stuff, I still do this at times that I have to catch myself. My wife always fusses at me about it. She'll say, "What do you want for dinner?" I say, "I don't care." And she's like, "Make a decision." And and it's like the problem is I really do not care. You guys have seen me. I'll eat pretty much anything that won't eat me first or put up much of a fight. But the ability to make a good, solid decision is vital. It's vital for a leadership role. It's vital in the role of father in your family. It's vital in your own personal life. Being able to make effective, smart decisions. Perception is also a very important thing as well. Being able to see that which cannot be seen. Yoritomo had several quotes. I'm going to be reading a few of these quotes here. It's pretty interesting. One of the quotes when he talked about psychic forces, he said, "The struggle for life becomes more and more arduous, and the power of our hidden faculties should expand in accordance with ever-growing necessities." And that's absolutely true. There was if you don't have these abilities, a lot of people think, well, I'm just not a very perceptive person, and I just don't make good decisions. I can't concentrate. Learn it. These are not skills that you have to be born with. These are skills you can learn. You can cultivate these skills. You can build these skills to make yourself stronger, to make the people around you stronger. See, even though Yoritomo used a lot of these skills to manipulate those around him, he was actually, his people, he was making them stronger. His enemies, he was using these skills to make them weaker. None of these things that I'm going to talk about are in themselves good or bad. It's all about perception and how they were used. They are just weapons. The same as a gun. A gun can be used for evil and a gun can be used for good. It's just a tool. These are all tools. So perception, being able to pay attention to that which is around you. And you can use this power of perception to even control the perception of others around you. And we'll talk about this one a little bit more later in the show here. But also concentration. You can learn to meditate. My wife loves to meditate. I have a little bit of trouble meditating in the classical sense, but there's a lot of different forms of meditation that you can do. For me, a lot of times meditation means fletching some arrows. That's a very meditative thing for me to do. Decision making, being able to make effective, non-emotional decisions. That's one of the biggest problems people have with their decision making ability, is they tend to react from an emotional standpoint and not really taken back a little bit. So those psychic forces, that mental ability, mental agility, just really being able to analyze that situation. It's the very first of the 12 cuts. Number 2 is persuasion. Persuasion, and that doesn't mean necessarily manipulating those around you. Persuasion, as defined by Yoritomo, was actually syncing up with others around you. being in sync. A good persuader has the ability to sync with those around them. You see it in marketing. You see it in advertising. And it's important, especially if you've listened to my episode when I talked about if you're a member, if you're not a member, become one. Patreon.com/The Barbarian Lounge. Become a member and listen to my episode on becoming the warlord. In this, I talked about for effective leadership, you've got to have a level of trust amongst your people. And if you are at the mantle of leader, if you are at the mantle of warlord of your town or community, whatever it may be, you have to have a level of trust with the people who work with you, because at that level, it's going to be compartmentalized to an extent for the necessity of the group. But your inner circle, these are the people, you got to have a level of trust with them. They're not going to follow you. They're not going to stand with you if they do not trust you. Plain and simple. The same thing goes with family. The same thing goes in your business. If you have if you're running your own business, developing a trust, syncing up with your customers is vital. That's one of the things I've always prided myself in all of my business works that I have done, is a level of customer service. It is very important. It's very important when you contact me, you get a prompt response. You get a helpful response. You don't want somebody that's going to lead you around. Once you have this ability to sync up with your people, it will carry over into everything else that you do. If you have this level of trust amongst those who are under you, maybe that next level, maybe that outer circle, the outer rim. Let's say you have the position of mayor. You're the people who are in the town hall with you. Those are your inner circle. Well, your people in the town that you govern over, those would fall into the category of that outer circle. But you still have to have trust in them, because if you do not have the trust, you will be removed. We just saw that with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Look how things go full circle. People did not trust that evil, wicked bitch. They did not trust her. That's why. That's why she's riding her broom home right now. That's why. Okay? So you've got to have this level of trust. You've got to be able to sync with people. You have to be able to use what I just talked about with those psychic forces, that mental ability, the perception, the concentration, decision making. All these things will carry over into how much trust. If you're somebody that can exhibit those things, your trust level will rise amongst your peers. People tend to be naturally kind of suspicious of people that come in, especially when they're trying to sync with you. And, and you can start through the different methods you'll use, you'll be able to tell when people are starting to sync with you a little bit. There's certain things such as mirroring and everything that people will do. And if you pay attention to it, you can catch on to it. And you know that when this happens, you're starting to sync up with them. And that's an important thing. That's important to the people around you. Watch your inner circle. You will notice this mirroring all the time. And that just lets you know that you're in sync, lets you know that they trust you, and that is important for any sort of leadership position. If you're moving up the rankings in your job, start to notice this. If you could go in and talk to your boss and you can get him to start mirroring you, guess who's in control? Guess who's feeding that conversation? Okay? This is where these powers start to come in. This is all about influence, and influence is everything in today's modern world. Obviously, it was important in your Tomos time as well. Another thing, listen. Being able to listen to what other people are saying. Also, what I was just talking about with body language, when they start mirroring you. Start to learn what body language is telling you. And this is something you can learn as well. And it doesn't have to be these little ticks and everything like they tell you. A lot of times it's very open, honest things. Or they sit with their legs crossed. Or they have their arms crossed. Are they glancing all around while they're talking to you? All these things. When you're saying something, are they nodding as you're talking? So these are certain things you can start to pick up. Also learn to listen to yourself as well. So what do I mean by that? Listen to myself. When you start to have the ability to recognize this level of syncing up, you can start to actually listen to the way your body is speaking to them as well. Are you sometimes when I talk, I have the tendency to fold my arms, and it's not necessarily that I feel uncomfortable. It's just kind of one of those things that you do. You're just kind of relaxing. You fold your arms. It's comfortable than just having them hanging there sometimes. But if you're talking to a customer, this can be a bad thing, because from a body language standpoint, it presents a very closed off perception to those people. So you need to have more of an open, uncross those arms, make eye contact, nod with them. All these things you could start communicating. Are you too close? Are you too far away? All these things will start to, so you can pay attention to yourself and see the image that you are presenting to other people. Number 3, the eyes. The eyes. You may think, what in the world are the eyes? Well, the eyes have always been considered the windows to the soul. And I just talked about it a minute ago about something as important as eye contact. Eye contact is very important, and it has always been something that I've had difficulty with in the past. And it's something that I paid attention to. It was something that was brought to my attention by some of my brothers, and it wasn't something I ever really noticed. And then I started picking up this idea. And you can lead a lot through what your eyes are doing. Okay? It exudes a level of confidence, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It also exudes a willingness to be there with that person. When the person's looking you in the eyes, you're looking them in the eye. You don't have to stare each other in the eyes like some kind of creeper. But you don't want your eyes darting all over the place as well. A quote here from the book is in relation to the eyes. It says, few persons escape the influence of the human eye. If its look is imperious, it subjugates. If it is tender, it moves. If it is sad, it penetrates the heart with melancholy. So, the eyes will tell a lot. I mean, you can look a lot of people in the eyes and start getting an idea of how they are, how they're feeling. You could also get an idea of any sort of deception. There's all those things where you look in the eyes and they're glancing all over the place. They're looking to the left or looking to the right, and all these things like that. There's mounds of books. But one of the things, if you've read a Book of Five Rings, you listen to Miyamoto Musashi, he talks about using the eyes in combat. The eyes exhibiting a fire. You can look, if you see people who are half asleep and they're half drained, their eyes are barely open, and they could just barely get by, and you can look and you can see almost a beaten person. When I was looking at Hillary Clinton this morning, you could see that she was a beaten person. When you're looking at her subjects, those political moonbats that were following her everywhere, same thing you saw from them. They were just, their eyes were just that of a beaten person. But those people who were following Trump, they had a vibrance. Trump had a vibrance. His family had a vibrance. And that carries over to the people around you. You've had Hillary Clinton barely being able to walk and being drugged to her vehicle a lot of times. Looks like Weekend at Bernie's half the time. I was waiting on him to stand there and prop her up and move her head up and down as somebody pantomimed for her. But that sort of thing carries over. And it carries over to the deadness that happened in her campaign. So number 4 is words in speech. The power of using words in speech. And this quote here, it says, this is from Yoritomo. It says, those that know how to present their thought in a few phrases in a way that impresses itself on their listeners may easily become leaders of men. I've talked a little bit in the past about propaganda. And propaganda it's got a negative connotation to it. As I talked about with Edward Bernays, he changed the term propaganda to public relations. So we see a lot of public relations, that PR. We see it all the time in our modern society. We see it in advertising. We see it through our politics. We see it everywhere. Words mean things. And as my good buddy Master Chib says, words mean things. And propaganda has always been used. The whole goal of propaganda has never been to actually get people to just brainwash. That's not the case. It's not to change their mind. Propaganda is designed to get them to move their feet, to get them moving. So if you're an effective speaker, some of the most effective speakers, some of the most effective people who, knowledge spreaders I know, purveyors of knowledge, I guess you could say. Some of the most effective means of doing that I know are guys who will say powerful, like 5-word sentences. And that's all they'll say. Tuhan Tom is notorious for the 5-word power phrase. He'll say those 5 words, you'll look at that and you'll go, holy shit, man. I mean, he did this with me a couple times through private messaging. He would just send me like these. I'd have some shit I was going through, and Tuhan Tom would send me just like a 5-word power phrase, and I was like, "Fuck, man, that was exactly what I needed." And that's why guys like him have established a strong leadership position. Short, powerful phrases, the ability to really sync up. We're right back to syncing up with the people around you. The ability to sync up with people through words. Yoritomo's method of creating simple and effective messages that stressed 5 main points. This was usually what he did. And I'll give you a little bit of what he used here. Number 1 was think deeply on what you want to say beforehand. Number 2 is transform your thoughts into images. You see this a lot through public relations and marketing. Number 3, transform your thoughts into images by using incisive words that. You were waiting on me there, weren't you? That's the whole point of that phrase. It draws you in. When I say that, you're like, what's the rest of it? Well, that's the drawing right there. You create a level of want, creating a level of needing to know more, okay? And that draws people in as well. And these are things you can use when you're talking to people around you, when you're trying to talk to your boss, when you're trying to move up the ladder of success. You can create this want. You see it in marketing a lot. So think about this when you're trying to sell something, okay? Think about this. Think about creating that want. They want more. I want to see more. I want to know more. Number 4, drawing mental pictures that can easily... You're waiting again. Exactly. Okay, when I said mental pictures, if I say right now, if I say red barn with a horse inside of it with hay bales on the outside and a green meadow, you can obviously see that unless you're my friend Morsi and he actually pictures the words. Craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. But if you can being able to paint pictures in the minds of other people. Number 5, implant in the minds of others using the form of lights and shades, such as openness when appropriate, subterfuge when necessary. Don't lie unless you have to. Okay? And this is obviously not talking about talking to your brothers. Okay? You should have an open book with your brothers, always. But if you're talking about influencing those around you to get where you need to be, hey, we're right back to breaking omelets to make some eggs, or breaking eggs to make some omelets, right? There's my dyslexia jumping through. Yoritomo's rules for speech were speak with conciseness, speak with clearness, speak with moderation, less is more, never invest $5 words in a 50-cent conversation, speak with discretion. Yoritomo warned from indiscretion to lying, the step is short. So, these things this is the ability to communicate with others. Okay, when you're trying to get your point across, when you're trying to sell something, and a lot of times you may be selling a product, sometimes you're selling an idea, sometimes you're selling yourself. When we talk about leading other people, talk about establishing movements, when we talk about establishing revolution, when we talk about getting people to follow us into whatever battle it may be, this is the method you have to take. This is the way you can communicate your thoughts towards other people. You can have this ability to turn what you're trying to, if you've got an image that you're trying to push, an idea of a better future. Donald Trump was very good at this throughout the campaign, painting these mental pictures. You could turn these things to your advantage. Another quote here says, speech is a distributor of the thoughts that surround us, of which the reiterated suggestions after impregnating certain groups of cells in our brain travel by affinity to haunt the same group of brain cells in their auditors. This is the idea of being unconsciously influenced in a way, sort of mental telepathy, if you will. being able to use your thoughts to actually influence others and inspire them to action. That's one of the reasons I like to have a lot of passion in what I'm telling you. And this isn't fake passion. If anybody's ever talked to me in person, you get there's no difference on here. There's no difference in person. You know, what I speak is my truth. What I speak, when I want to inspire people to action, I use it through my words. I use it through my passion, use it through the emotion that I try and express through this broadcast. So number 5, your example, the power of your example. And man, that is a powerful one as well. A lot of people, I always have been one of those guys that likes to lead by example. Quote here from Yoritomo on leading by example. He says, our most frequent associations are never indifferent to our mentality, and we always submit, voluntarily or unconsciously, to the ascendancy of those that surround us, unless we have sufficient influence over their minds to compel them to submit themselves to us. And this is the idea of leading by example. Okay? He uses very flowery words to say that what you do influences the people who are around you. It's the old idea of, you're the sum of like your 5 closest friends. I think that's basically what it is. I could be butchering that whole idea, but you get my point. If you hang around a bunch of losers, if you hang around a bunch of people who have no ambition, they sleep all day, they get up, they just drag around all day, go along to get along. Those are the people that you have close to you. That is what you will become. Okay? It's, as I've said many times, it's much easier for someone to pull you down. If you're standing up on a chair, it's much easier for them to pull you off that chair than it is for you to grab them and lift them up on the chair with you. Okay? So when you inspire those around you, your actions can inspire them to want to step up on that chair by themselves, so you're not having to drag them. If you've got losers hanging from your feet as you're trying to climb the mountain, the climb is difficult. Through your example, have the ability to get them to take the initiative, grab a hold of that rock, and climb with you. It's one of the things I have always strived to do in everything I've done. When I run my martial arts program, the same thing happens. I'm always on the mats with them. I'm always putting gloves on. I'm always in there taking licks right with them. When I do the warm-up, I don't have them do the warm-up and I watch. No, I do the warm-up with them. And I always tell them, I will never ask you to do something that I cannot do and will not do next to you. That is what an effective leader does. An effective leader is willing to die next to his people. He has to have that willingness to die. And he will lead by example. And if he has that willingness to die, then God damn it, they'll die right next to him if need be. As I talked about with effective leadership, if you're an effective leader, people will follow you, if not just out of curiosity. You have to set that example of excellence. Setting that example of excellence is important. It is very important. You set it for your children, you set it for your family, you set it for your tribe. And if people aren't willing to live up to that level of excellence, well, there's a problem. That starts to mean they're not congruent. And even if they can't climb to the level you're at, if they're attempting, if they're at least making moves and trying to get there, then we will never leave them behind. They'll never get left behind. But it only becomes the moment when they embrace stagnation. That's when it's time to cut the cord and just let them fall. With your level, with the example that you set, you have to ask yourself, this is one of the things that I always impress upon myself when I start thinking about leading by example. I say, what do I want to be known for? What do I want people to think of me as this piece of shit that always takes money from people and uses and abuses them and doesn't do what he says, and he says train but he doesn't train, and all this stuff. That's not the type of person you want to be. That is the legacy that you leave behind. What do you want carved on your tombstone? When your story is finished, what will people say about you? Today's the day to start thinking about that. Not tomorrow, not a few minutes from now. Right now, think about, what do you want your legacy to be? Number six of the 12 cuts is psychic influences. So psychic influences. Here we are back in psychic things, talking psychics again. What Yoritomo defines psychic influences as is the intensity of determination. The art of substituting for the want of resolution in others our own will, which they will obey blindly, sometimes unconsciously, ever glad to feel themselves guided and directed by the moral power which they cannot elicit themselves. This is the intensity that you show to other people, that intensity of determination. It's an intensity that should carry over. When you walk into a room, people should start turning to look at you. This is one of the things that when I was in pro wrestling, people used to always tell me that I had a certain intensity that, when I stepped in the ring, people wanted to watch me. They wanted to hear what I had to say. They wanted to watch what I was doing. I wasn't the best in the world by any means, but of course I told people that, and of course I showed that intensity in the ring, even if I was just throwing a right hand, if I just did a hip toss, if I took a bat bump, I wanted it to look intense. I wanted to express that intensity, the anguish, and that was done through many ways, through my body language, through my eyes, through the things I said, through the way I carried myself. All these things became very important. A quote here from Yoritomo, he says that it is not necessary to have, as many pretend, recourse in magic in order to become past masters in the art of influencing our fellows. What is needed above all is to keep ourselves constantly in a condition of willpower sufficient to impose to impose our commands on minds capable only of obedience. Intensity of determination, when it reaches a certain point, possesses a dazzling influence which few ordinary mortals can resist, for it envelops them before they are aware of it, and thus before they have dreamt of endeavoring to withdraw themselves from it. So if you meet certain people have a level of intensity that you just want to be around them. I see this. I've run into people like this throughout my lifetime, that they just have this level of magnetism to them. And a lot of time it's through a lot of the things we've talked about already. The things they say, the examples they set, the intensity they have in their face. What sort of body language do they have? Are they effective at passing their message along? This intensity will draw others to your cause. Your intensity really boils down overall. I would say your intensity really boils down to two things. It's your focus and your ability to make others focus. The focus that you have on life. One of the guys I think about, Paul Wagner. Paul Wagner, he has, of the Wolves of Vinland, if you don't know who that is, look him up. Paul Wagner has this ability to express a level of focus and a level of intensity that it magnetizes him, or it magnetizes others to him. And why is that? Obviously, one of the big ones is the way he leads by example. And you see this start to carry over to the people around him. And you see all those around him start to grow even stronger. It's one of the things that I've wanted to push through the Barbarian Lounge. There's a certain magnetism that I want to express through the words that I'm saying here. I want you to feel energized. When you turn this show off, I want you to feel energized. I want you to be able to feel it through the airwaves. I want you to be able to sit there. Somebody told me the other day, they were riding down the road and they were listening to it, and I told them in the broadcast, and I'll say it right now, if you're feeling what I'm saying, give it a grunt. Give me a give me a give me a good barbarian grunt. If you're feeling what I'm talking about, having this intensity in your life, the intensity to live, the intensity to get up, the intensity to bring yourself to a higher stance. I've always told people, do not be comfortable with the stars that you've been dealt. No one should have to be comfortable with the cards they're dealt. And your intensity is going to bring these things to you. It's going to draw people around you who have the same intensity. And through that, it creates an electricity that allows you to move higher and higher and higher up the ladder of success, whether it be in life, whether it be in your brothers around you. All of these things will help you grow. There's a certain you hear some people talk about a level of energy. They talk about energy as it, you hear them talk about auras and things like that. And, I'm not going to go new age on you, but I want you to think about this. Think about the level of energy that you push forward to other people. If you got somebody who's, they're half asleep and they're always kind of talking like this. Imagine if I've listened to so many podcasts. Imagine if I did a podcast and I said, "Greetings, fellow barbarians. Welcome to the Barbarian Lounge. I am your host today." That's boring as fuck, and nobody wants to listen to that shit, okay? I've always talked about, if people talk about emotion and everything, and being emotional is a bad thing, but passion is what makes us human beings. And that passion needs to be expressed forth through your voice, through your eyes, through the way you carry yourself, through the deeds that you do. Having this intensity will draw others around you. When you walk into a room, this intensity will bring others, they will magnetize others to you. And this is something that you can build up for yourself. And you're like, how can I build a level of intensity? Intensity and the level of energy that you put off to other people, it gets magnified by your zest for life, for the things that you do, for your ability to live, for your ability to want to make others better, to the ability to want to make your brothers better. All these things will make you start to vibrate stronger. It'll make your body become intense. It'll express almost like tentacles coming off of you, grabbing people and pulling them into your circle. And they'll want to know, who is this guy? Who is that guy that just walked into the room? I want to know who that is. I want to know more about him. I want to know what he does. These are all things that you can attain, my friends. These are all things that you need to push forward and strive to build in your own life. So psychic influences and the level of energy you have, these are important things. If you think about, when I talk to people about energy, they automatically start thinking all new agey on me. But let's be honest, man. I mean, have you ever had somebody that just give you kind of a weird gut feeling? It's like, man, I don't know what it is about that guy, but I just don't really like him. Yeah. That's a lot more than what you actually think it is. A lot of people just think we're nothing but giant meat sacks, and we walk around and we live, and that's that. But there's a lot more to the human being than we actually know. I've experienced things. I've been around other people who've allowed me to experience things. I've used several sacred plants. No, I'm not talking about weed. I've used several sacred plants and sacred herbs that have allowed me to see beyond the veil of what we have here. And let me tell you something. If you don't think there's something else out there, you're wrong. Let go of the control that you have. Take that journey and see what's out there. It'll change your perception. Number 7, effective decision making. And I talked about a little bit before about this effective decision making. In order to make good, effective decisions, it needs to be non-emotional, and it needs to be a rational decision-making process. A lot of people make decisions in life based off of emotion, and that's a bad thing. Passion is great because passion is it has a level of emotion to it, but emotional tends to be very uncontrolled. It tends to be very rash. It tends to be very irrational. When you start making rational decisions, it allows you to start really picking that decision apart and thinking about things as they are, not how you want them to be. We find this a lot with people when they start talking about making decisions. They have a lot of difficulty making effective decisions. They'll make a decision. People make a decision. But what makes a good decision maker over a shitty decision maker is the ability to detach emotion from it and follow a rational thought process as they're doing it. And a lot of this comes from being able to read the battlefield. As you guys, if you follow me on Facebook, you've heard me talk about poker. That's my, I used to play poker in the past, but really getting into it now. Poker has become my latest obsession. And, in poker, there's a lot of lessons to be learned. A lot of these 12 cuts, or 13 total, actually play over very well into poker. and being able to read the battlefield is the same way. When you're sitting at a poker table, there's a lot to be read there. Even if it's something like online poker, if you do that sort of thing. An online poker, even though you're not looking at actual people, there's a lot to be read on the battlefield. And sometimes the decision as to whether to fold or not fold becomes very, very important, such as your bankroll, the bankroll that you have. And a lot of times you can get frustrated with certain players, and you just want to stick it to them, but the whole time they've been playing you. They've been trying to get you to react emotionally and not think rationally, and they end up taking more of your bankroll than they actually deserve. So, people have always liked good, strong decision makers. They've always liked people that make effective decisions. And effective's the key word. Anybody can make a decision, but making an effective decision is very important. People have always liked decision makers. I know everybody likes to talk about how they're go-getters and they get out and do this and get out and do that. But at the end of the day, people want an effective decision maker. Why? Because this removes a lot of the responsibility. And a lot of people don't like having skin in the game. They don't like that. So a good, effective leader has the ability to make good, effective decisions. And people will follow you if you show if you show that you can actually make good, effective decisions. A nice quote here from Yoritomo here, where he says, "You can instruct yourself in this art of decision making, so difficult and nevertheless so important, for the influence which he who is accustomed to wise and prompt decision exerts over others is always considerable." So, Yoritomo was very wise in his ability to put forth this decision making ability. And when he talked about, he said, I was just looking here in this book here. He says there's certain ways you can help to increase your ability to make effective decisions. He says practice reflection and concentration. We talked about that before. Being able to concentrate and reflect on these thoughts. Don't make a rash decision out of nowhere. Don't just do something for the sake of doing it. Think about it. Really detach yourself from the emotion behind it. Detach yourself from the irrationality that you may have and become mindful. Reflect on this idea. He says practice presence of mind. It's basically presence of mind is just another word for awareness. Be aware of the battlefield. What are the other people doing around you? If it's a vital decision, think about what you're going into. Practice exercising your will. The will, if you've ever read any of Friedrich Nietzsche, talks about the will of power, that inner reserve or the drive and determination that we're all born with. I mean, it's something that we have. It's that ability, this level of willpower. It says, I was just looking here where it says, where it's talking about the will. He says, determination is halfway to destiny. And that's a very powerful statement there. Your determination, your will is basically just another word for your determination. You're halfway there, man. Following that sense of determination, man. That's moving you closer and closer towards your destiny. Because let's be honest, nobody who's ever been anything, who has left a solid legacy, did not have. They've always had a level of determination to them. That ability to just keep striving and keep moving forward. Another thing he says is maintain energy. You got to keep moving. You got to keep your zest for life up and going. Practice impartiality. Yeah, impartiality. That's very important as well. That's part of the detachment that we talked about earlier. So Yoritomo, he talked about problem solving as well, and that's one of the vital things for making good, effective decisions as well. And remember, when I'm talking about effective decisions, I'm talking about leadership. And with leadership, that comes to leading yourself, leading your people, leading others. Even if you're trying to build your way up, even if you have that status of worker bee and you're looking to move your way up, you say, you know what, I want to be the supervisor. Well, these steps will allow you to start making moves towards that way. Start allowing you to problem solve. So Yoritomo had a very specific way when he talked about how to solve problems. And I've termed this as simply as problem solving 101. Of course, I broke it down a little bit, but problem solving 101, the easiest way to make good, effective problem solving decisions. These are things that I've used in the past, and this is through trial and error, and they've worked for me. They've worked very well, and I think they'll work for you too. First off, problem solving 101. The first thing you need to do, define the problem. What is define? You need to clearly define it. Clearly define what it is. Do not make assumptions about what the problem is. You need to clearly define it. Until you've done that, you cannot move forward. The next step, brainstorm your options. What do you have? What are the different ways around this? Again, I look right back into poker again. You know, if you're playing Texas Hold'em, you got your two cards there, and they do the flop. And, you know, you get your flop, which is your next three cards. You start thinking to yourself, all right, what are my outs here? What are the outs I have? What are the odds? What are my pot odds from here? So you start figuring all these things out, and it allows you to start making the best options. Do I need to fold? Do I need to raise? Do I need to check? What do I need to do here? Same thing goes for any sort of decisions you're making. I use poker as an analogy because that's a very simplistic analogy for me. Next one is prioritize realistic options. So of all the options that you have, you need to start thinking about, okay, what are, in a level of 1 to 10, if you've got 10 options, what are the most realistic? And I need to put them in order and see which ones. So now you're starting to really break that problem down and the answers to that problem in a level of, say, 1 to 10, if you've got that many. Implement the best option first. So whatever option you've listed as number 1, that's the one you need to follow to start with, okay? Because that is the one you have rationally broken down. You say that is the best option. The next step is adjusting and adapting. That option may not be a straightforward path. You may have to move here, move there, following that option, but you need to have the ability to adjust, adapt. You know, we always hear the saying, adapt, overcome, improvise. That's what you're going to have to do with this. The next one is be ready to repeat. Maybe that first best option is that maybe you thought it was the best one, but it didn't quite play out. So be willing to go back and start again with option number 2. Okay. And the last one, and this is one I kind of added, is own all of your mistakes that you make. Do not place blame on other people for your options not working out. This is a trap that a lot of people fall into. They fall into the blame game. This whole blame game of oh, well, they wouldn't do this and they wouldn't do that. No, fuck that. You need to own your mistakes, because when you own your mistakes, you will learn lessons. Every time you have a failure, you need to ask yourself, okay, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong that made this not work? That will take away the power that other people have over you and bring all the power to you. You see, other people didn't do it to you. You did it. So now they don't have control over you. You have control over yourself. And now you learn. Okay? Every single time I have lost at anything, I have gained knowledge from it. So take away that power from other people. Own every single one of those mistakes. And if you follow these steps, you will be able to make effective decisions. Number 8, ambition. Hey, very simple. You need to desire more. That's about as simple as it gets. Desire more. You know, get your fortune, man. Get your fortune. I always look at, everybody knows, if you listen to my episodes, you know I love pirate culture. Blackbeard is a fine example of a guy who went out and sought his fortune. He was not a pirate very long, but he made a goal and he moved forward with it. Get your fortune, man. Poverty. People say, oh, that's one of the problems I have with Christianity sometimes, is they tend to push a poverty aspect in the minds of people. They say, oh, be as the shepherd, be this, be that, and, oh, blessed are the meek. No, get your fortune, man. Work for more. Get more. There's no crime in having more. We should be striving every single day to have more. If you have this ambition, this level of ambition to get more out of life, it will give you that zest. It'll give you that energy. It'll allow you to push forward. And there's so many people who just do not have any ambition. They just want to sit around. They go along to get along. That is not for them. That is not for us. That is for those outside the gate. People inside the gate, people in this circle here, if you're listening to this show, you're not one of those people. You're proving right now that you're not one of those people. Tell me, if you're not one of those people, go ahead and give me a wherever you're at. I don't give a fuck who's listening. wherever you're at. They ask you why you're grunting. You tell them because you're listening to the Barbarian Lounge and you're inspired and you're ready to get out and do something better for yourself. Poverty sucks, man. I remember my dad used to have a picture in his house, and it was a little small picture, and it had an airplane and like a Ferrari on it, and all it said was "Poverty sucks." And I still remember that to this day, and it was something that stuck out in my head. And maybe that's why I've always wanted more. Maybe that's why I've always wanted to learn more. Maybe that's why I've always wanted to start my own business, and I didn't want to be a worker bee for nobody else, because there is nothing that says that I have to stay where I'm at. We're climbing. All those other people can stay at the bottom of the mountain if they want to, but let me tell you something, fellow barbarians. We're climbing. We're climbing to the top of that mountain, and I'm sick and tired of seeing good, strong people sit at the bottom of that mountain willing to just have peanuts. We're not elephants. We don't want fucking peanuts. We're climbing to the tops of the mountain because at the end of the day, we're going to hold that mantle and be the gods we deserve to be. Look at me. I'm getting fired up. Jesus. I'm getting fired up like crazy. Drink my Mitacon. I'm about to go off here. Let me read you another quote here from Yoritomo as related to poverty. He says, "Poverty is only allowable if it is voluntary. That is to say, if it is the result of a decision which prefers that condition to another more brilliant but less independent. Nevertheless, riches are the key to many marvels, and they are above all the key to many influences." Yes, absolutely. Sum that up, poverty sucks. And no one should have to be in poverty. If you've got people dragging you down, if you got people that telling you that you should, just be meek, that was one of the things, let me tell you, I've talked about it many times. I love my father. He was a great man. I learned a lot from him. But one of the things that they said about my dad when he passed away, they said he was always humble. He was such a humble man. And yes, he was. My dad was a very humble man. I don't want to be known as that humble guy. I want to be known as that guy who was constantly ambitious. They said, you know what? He was always moving forward. He was always climbing. He was not willing to sit at the bottom of that mountain. He was not willing to play the cards he was dealt. There's no rule that says you have to play the cards that you were dealt. Yoritomo also says the poor man exercises little influence over the multitude. And yes, that's very true. That's very true in a lot of sense. So, fellow barbarians, I'm telling you, if you don't have a level of ambition, if you don't get up every morning and are willing to grab that day by the horns and wrestle it to the ground and hog tie it up, if you're not willing to do that, you need to fucking do better. Number 9, perseverance. Perseverance. I'm going to read you a quote about perseverance from Yoritomo. He says, "For perseverance is the mother of many gifts. From her is born circumspection, which clasps hands with application and patience." Absolutely. Absolutely. Perseverance is nothing more really than a synonym for patience and persistence. It's your ability to keep moving. It's the ability to not be stagnant. You need to constantly be making moves, always playing the game. Even when I talked about poker earlier, when you're playing poker, even if you folded the hand, you're still playing the game. Okay? If you folded the hand, say you got shitty cards, or say you got a fucking king 2 right off the deal. You got king 2, you're like, oh shit. You fold it right off the bat, right? So you fold that king 2, so everyone else is playing. You're not sitting out the game. You're not fucking around on your iPhone. You're not daydreaming about what you're going to have for dinner. No, you're sitting there and you're still playing that game. You're still playing the game. You're still watching the battlefield. You're keeping an eye on all of these things. Too many people want to sit on the sidelines. When things get hard, everybody wants to back off. And they're, I can't really take it. Let me tell you something. No great person has ever not practiced a level of perseverance. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.